Anyway, I'd like to welcome Sergio to present at our conference this morning. Thank you, Sergio.
Good morning, everyone. That's a wonderful introduction. Thank you very much, Susan. I appreciate that. Oh wow, what a fantastic audience! It's a full house. I'm very, very excited to be here. It's my first time in Australia, and I'm even more excited because it's a special occasion. Right. First of all, when I came in this morning, the president, Deb Summers, welcomed me to remind me that I would be the one breaking the ice. And then it made me think, actually, I've done a couple of conferences similar to this in Norway, where I also have to break the ice. And I'd rather break the ice in Australia anytime than in Norway. But before we start, just a big thank yous for your great welcome I've received here. Thank you much for Mark and Civica for a generous sponsorship of this event and this session. And thank you for the whole of Deb, as well as the whole of the committee, the Public Library Western Australia committee. They made me feel really, really welcome indeed. And lastly, I also want to thank my drivers and who are in alphabetical order. Alison, thank you much, Alison, for you driving me around. Greg is not here today, I think, but he also drove me around. Thank you also, Lizelle, Greg's wife, for driving me around, and not forgetting Sue, who's also been driving me around, and last but not least, Vivian, who's also driving me around. So I really appreciate all this driving around these people. And I've not met the divisional transport director yet, but I'd like to thank her and her entire team for organizing the logistics of my transportation while I'm in Western Australia. So very thankful to them. I don't know who my next driver would be, and I've spotted, I don't know, John has got an interesting car, and I noticed yesterday. I wouldn't mind a spin on that car, but you know, I'm not. I mean, if anybody else wants to offer, I've got. If you're interested, I've got an Uber rating of 3 stars out of 5, so I can have a basic conversation or something. Anyway, let's move on and something a bit more serious than this, which is Idea Store, which is what I do. Okay, so Susan gave you the warning that I'm not a librarian, so you'll not be shocked to hear that. But indeed, my entry into the Idea Store has been through the learning side. So if you can see library, learning information, that's what we do in Idea Stores. And I came in through the learning door. Okay, let me tell you the story of Idea Store then. I've met some of you last week yesterday, and by then you would have got used to my accent, I hope. Some of you, some of the others that spent the last few minutes giving you a chance to get used to an Italian living in East London accent, which is, I don't know how many people in this area have this kind of accent, but hopefully we tuned in and you're okay, ready to start. I'm getting on fine with the accent here. I was getting worried about, you know, and I must say I was a bit panicked when I arrived at the airport and I was welcomed by 2 South Africans. and then I thought, I'll be working on this Australian accent, getting ready, and then suddenly they threw this curveball to me. But and then they were so friendly and said, Tommy, we've been here for 25 years, so don't worry. Moving on, okay, stop talking. Sorry, start talking. Oh, this is me, as we said, and this is we are first. Yeah, okay. The Idea Store story goes like this. We start first of all with the place. It's important that we recognize the kind of place Idea Store started in, and we're still only in Taha, which is a bit of East London, which has got a lot of history. The Tower of London is, in fact, in our neighborhood. And it's a very vibrant neighborhood, lots of lively market life and so on. Lots of deprivation. Is one of the most deprived areas in the entire UK. Lots of unemployment and etc. is very, very mixed ethnically. More than half of the population are of non-white ethnic background. Particularly the Bangladeshi community is very, very strong, but also other from West Indies and other Somali communities, Chinese communities are also quite considered. And also, at the same time, we also have this is Canary Wharf, an area where it's called the financial district, is also here. And here you go 100,000 people every day come and work in an area where they make lots of money, lots of mess as well sometimes, let's face it. But so there's really this contrast between poverty and kind of wealth and so on. And lately, the trend is changing a bit, and we got hipsters as well. I don't know if you got them, so we welcome anyone really. We don't mind. So they're coming and bringing with them, their contribution to the community, which includes nightlife, which 15 years ago it wasn't very lively. Now it was lively in a different way. Now it's lively and safer altogether, I would say, and healthier than 15 years ago. But actually, really, to cut a long story short, this is where we started our journey. We started Idea Stores because we used to have libraries such as this one, believe it or not. And I'm not talking about 100 years ago, I'm talking about 1998. So in 1998, we used to run a library service in London, in the central London, out of buildings such as this one. And this was not the only one we had of this type. So this would have been, probably open a couple of days a week, probably, 500 books. And so really, as a result of that, really, the situation was quite dire for libraries in our area. And as in 98, we only reached 18% of the population. 82% of the population just did not come to libraries in our area. In the UK, it was 50-50. And yet in East London, in Tower Hamlets, it was only 18%. So really there was like a wake-up call for us to say, we can't carry on like this, we're gonna become extinct soon, so we got to do something about it. So what we did, instead of kind of trying to think too hard ourselves of what we could do about the situation, we decided actually to ask the people themselves, because at the end of the day, it is a service for the people and of the people. So we asked them, come on guys, why don't you come to libraries in this area? And so how did we do that? We actually engaged in a major marketing research exercise, which is really unusual and unique for a council to spend a lot of money actually at the time in getting experts. We didn't have expertise in-house, so we had to rely on experts from outside, specialists. We hired one of the biggest companies to do this on our behalf, on our brief. And the task was to ask people two key questions. Why don't you come to libraries? What would you expect from a library in the 21st century? Let us know, and we would like to do something like you wanted. And the way they did this was really quite comprehensive, a number of initiatives such as road shows outside supermarkets and tours and so on, as well as in-depth analysis from a sample of 600 people who represented Hamlets from socioeconomic, ethnic backgrounds, etc., etc. And so those ones, it'd be like in a census. The company, they went to their homes and they spent an hour and a quarter really having an in-depth conversation to get the most out of them about what they do in their life, what they do in their spare time, what do they expect from a public service. And that was really, really absolutely essential to do something like that, and much, of course, more comprehensive than doing a simple questionnaire, asking 10 questions on a piece of paper outside the tube station on a rainy day. People will tell you anything to get rid of you. So, but if you actually, if you actually invest some time, investing is important because we even paid these people. This was the days of, the rosy days of the early Labour government, when there was a lot of money going into public services. And so we even were able to pay these people something like $30 or so in kind of vouchers for department store for their time, to say thank you very much for taking part. So this really was a fantastic time. What came out, some of the things were not particularly surprising. Most people thought libraries were important, obviously not for them, for some other kind of person, but not for them. But people wanted more books. There's no way two ways about it. There's no point talking about libraries unless you really have, a substantial number of books and good collections, quality as well as quantity. More IT. This was an area which was one of the most deprived from the point of view of IT. Only a third of the population had access to IT on a daily basis, either from home or from work. So that was really a challenge for us. People wanted more convenient opening hours. The opening hours at the time were in line with other parts of the country, something like 46 hours a week. It wasn't particularly bad in comparison to other parts of the UK, but there were, convenient was not the way you describe them. Some libraries would open at 9 to 5, some 10 to 3, some 2 to 5, some 10 to 8, and so on. There was always kind of guesswork to, guess what time your library is going to open today. And people will turn up with a pile of books to return, and then, I'll go Wednesday afternoon, it's closed. Silly me. So really, obviously the customer was not in our minds at the time. And lastly, the people really wanted very clearly to tell us, look, we will go to your libraries if you actually you can locate them where we can do other things while we're there, combining with other activities, particularly shopping. And that was really, really key. Our libraries at the time were mostly scattered around the neighbors, hidden away in little cul-de-sacs and the squares and little gardens and so on. And people would find it difficult to go to. And yet all the supermarkets and the street markets were all in the busy areas, and the libraries were not there. So that was really key. It was really interesting the other day is it Kensmore? We went, and it was really pleasing to hear Gareth telling us that their strategy was to put their library there where the shop is, where people go already. So really, well, I said, bingo, we are on the same wavelength there. Thank you for that. So moving on, what do we do with all this? Well, actually, the amount of data we got was quite overwhelming. So we decided to actually, again, seek external help, and we decided to, what we decided to do is to do something entirely new and develop a new library brand. And for this, we actually had asked for some help from designers, architects and designers, studio in London called Bissett Adams. And they were instrumental in really kind of helping us shape the new offer. Because they understood, because what they did, they specialized, they do architecture and design as well as communication and branding. And that was really key for them to understand and help us understand what does this mass of data really mean? How do we get together? So and together what we did really was we had all these kind of raw ingredients, and we prepared the recipe. The cooking was ours, but the raw ingredients were given by the people, and then the architects helped us really put into shape. So and that was really a key step for us. What we did, the brand, is built around these main areas. Lifelong learning is really very much at the heart of everything people were telling us wanted to do. And it was interesting because this was primarily a library-based marketing research. We didn't talk about learning. We didn't tell them about learning. They told us, the people told us, look, many people come out of school with no qualifications, and in the first few years of teenage, late teenage, it might not matter so much because life is fun in some ways. And then when you get into your adulthood, you realize if you haven't got qualifications, you're going to struggle, and you end up either being unemployed or on low-paid, low-skilled jobs. So many people say, look, we want to go back to learning, but there are not many opportunities for us. So make sure this library has an opportunity for us to go back to learning. And that was really a key thing. And we put it right at the center of our brand. Around that, we had the built environment, had to be in the right location as well as the right type of building. All our buildings, or most of our buildings, were Victorian buildings, not fit for purpose in this day and age, not accessible, and so on. So really, we had to really rethink the way the buildings were devised. Products and services, we started thinking more like a business, although we are entirely public service, entirely paid by tax money. we have to think more about what kind of, tune in to the commercial sector in a sense, to understand what people, like. So we have to offer more than, the books and information that we are able to offer. Courses, we put together, a comprehensive program of courses. This year, guide to courses, we have 900 courses, which can be anything from yoga to foreign languages to cookery and so on. Services, also we have things like other events, we have art galleries, cafes, the whole thing. Communications was very important. There's no point having a good brand unless you can also communicate it to the community effectively. Behavior was equally important. It was the recurring theme. Again, people said, look, we don't want to come to a building where really you can't do anything, really. You're told not to do this, not to do that, and so on. And this applied to both adult learning spaces like colleges and libraries in the UK. And we said, look, we want to go, when we go to a department store or cafe or a bar or whatever, people don't tell us what to do. We know how to behave normally. Okay, occasionally you might have the odd beer too many, and you might not behave. But normally, most people do behave in those places. They know how to behave. So why do you assume people don't know how to behave in a library? Of course they do. And so we have to really think something about it. I'll tell you more about it later. Then the brand values then we created were, again, centered around lifelong learning in the sense of being a continuously learning organization. And then engage, empower, and enrich was also, really they support our ethos. Engage is about finding different novel ways of engaging with people, attracting people, and keeping them coming back and spreading the word about what we do. Empower is very much about active listening and about, just making things easier for people. And enrich is hopefully combining a number of things together. People, the experience is enriched by the fact that they come along to borrow a book about, let's say, they want to learn the Spanish language, and they borrow a book that teaches them Spanish, and they realize actually we also do courses. You can come every Tuesday night, you can do the level 1 Spanish course with a qualified native speaker, and also we have books about travel guides to Latin America. We have books by authors who write in Spanish and translated. We have music CDs from South America and Spain, etc. We have films and so on DVD. So the whole experience of actually coming to an idea store, and if the theme is Spain or Spanish culture and Latin American culture, is really enriched by that. These values, importantly, apply also to the staff. And I think yesterday we talked about it in some cases. I think Tracy's session, you touched upon the importance of values and staff also taking on these values. And I think it's really important for us that empower. There is also an example I can give you later on about this as well. Okay, so far? I'm going fast, I know. I got a lot to say. Brand guidelines, we produced a brand identity program, which was really quite robust, because the brands otherwise become dead or dilute over time unless you have some guardians there. Idea Magazine was something produced really earlier on, very early on. The purpose was to communicate to people that the idea was the new concept that we started, and we had to tell people what it was all about. And the most important thing, it was a very well produced magazine, and it was like glossy paper, just like this. As you picked it up, it was entirely different from the usual library offer, where you normally, I'm sorry to say, when I arrived on the scene at the time, I would see a newsletter in the library, and it used to be like a third generation photocopier, produced, badly stapled together, badly edited, and with lots of, not very interesting stuff in it. And that was really, we had to make a break from that. We wanted to just move it to a different level. So we produced a magazine. We had good designers, good writers, great photos, imagery, and so on. And the story started, this magazine was produced 4 times a year in 20,000 copies each time, distributed across the central points of the community. And this magazine started being released 2 years before we even opened the first idea store. So that gives you an idea of the kind of scope and the strategy, which was a long-term strategy for us to start telling people earlier on, look, watch this space. This is really quite something amazing is going to happen. It's called Idea Store. What is it? Well, come and find out. So the initial stories were about, hypothetical stories about what is going to happen. Eventually, they became very much real, i.e. interviews with staff, with members of the public, elder people, mums, professionals, etc., etc. All right. This is the kind of idea of trying to promote the idea that idea stories should be part of everyday life. If not, weekly visits are the norm, rather than just being like a museum where you might only go maybe once a year or maybe even less, and so on. The perfect location, as I said, it was crucial. So we started looking really hard, and we're very, very demanding on location. We're not going to prepare to compromise on location. We'd rather wait for a particular lot to become available for years, rather than just going to the 100 yards away because it's in the wrong space. So Idea Store Whitechapel, the largest building, is right in the Idea Store in Whitechapel Road, very, very busy road, next to a tube station, supermarket, Sainsbury's, next to, there's a market, street market every day except Sunday. The same with Idea Store Crisp Street, also in a very, very busy area, and they're all the same located. The right mix is important to, again, put all these different elements together in a way that it works, and it doesn't become like a glued on. So from very early on, the librarians who started the whole process came to people like myself to say, Sergio, we like you and your colleagues in adult learning to work with us, because it seems like what the people want is really to work, to have something, a service which is joined up. And that's how we started talking. And initially we started thinking kind of in a more, we were very happy because we had the same problems. In adult learning, we also had the same problem. We were running colleges from Victorian buildings, hidden away, the same. And as a result, we were also bottom of the league in London in terms of performance. So from that point of view, we had to think, okay, let's work together. Initially, the other thing, also, the other advantage is that normally in the UK, libraries are funded by the cultural departments and adult learning from the education department, okay? By putting together joint forces, we would have double, kind of more resources to put together. Any politicians in the room? That was just an idea, anyway. So just, and anyway, and that it worked for us. And initially we started thinking these buildings could be, okay, let's imagine what they would be like. And it would be like the ground floor would be the library, cool. And the first floor could be the learning labs, the rooms, whatever, the classrooms. So, oh, that's good, yeah. And yet, it didn't feel really quite good enough, because again, it kept those two aspects separate, still in a way. There was still a barrier there, really. So we thought, hold on a second, let's think about the ordinary person, the ordinary citizen. Are they really defining, do you think people are readers? So because some people are readers, I read books, that's all I do. And go this way. And other people are learners. No, I don't read books, but I learn. Okay, go this way. Of course not. At different stages in our lives, we are both readers and learners, and sometimes we read for pleasure, sometimes we read to learn something, new skill or something like that. So different styles. So there are two sides of the same coin. So they really, really work well together. So it made really total sense in doing this. And again, we look at history, and in fact, we discovered that about 100 years earlier in Victoria, in the early public libraries in the UK, libraries were places for people who go to learn, and there would be people like who were illiterate who would go there, and the librarians would teach them how to read and write. So really, we kind of gone full circle, really, because in the meantime, adult learning became one department, and libraries went this way, but actually, we just brought it all back together. That's really, it's not a particularly novel idea in the end. Moving on, the service had to be seamless in the sense of the physical space. So, as I said, the library and the space and the classrooms are really integrated. So, people, for example, typically will go to a classroom like this from the learning lab. We like fancy names, and they would be studying English or speakers of other languages. And they come out of the classroom, and the teacher will tell them, listen, don't forget to pick up your easy reader English books. They're free, pick up as many as you want, and go home and study over the next week, or the week, come back next Tuesday, and we'll go through them again. So that really becomes very, very seamless. From the point of view of members of staff also on the front line, don't send people from pillar to post. Oh, you want to know about learning? Oh, go and ask a colleague. No, no. You want to know about learning? You want to know about doctor searches? Do you want to know about job searches? Do you want to know about books? Come to me. So one member of staff does all of those things. The teaching staff is different, of course. Those have to be specialists, of course. We learned a lot from the retail world, and in a good way, I think. We managed to get within the good practice. Lots of good practice in the world is look and feel of the place has to be really comparable to the retail world, because that's what people respond to. So here we have to compare ourselves to the Barclays Bank, which is next to us, and they got this really swanky kind of suites and there and so on. And we had to try to be up there as close as possible to them, even though we do it for a different purpose altogether. And so this is the kind of communication, the kind of strong branding we have. Books, we just shamelessly go to bookshops, the best chains like Dawn's and Waterstones in London, and we see how do they do it. Okay, let's do it the same way. So a lot of face-on books to really make those books really, really appetizing. The opening hours we had to extend to 7-day week, 17 hours a week, 357 days a year. And also they're kind of simple, so most days 9 to 9. If you're in doubt, turn up and we're lucky to be open. And then the weekends slightly less, but still considerable. We then had to remove some of the barriers. Some of those are kind of physical, some psychological. We are not keen on big help desks and counters which really take over a lobby. We prefer to have something a bit more discreet. So if you look at this space, the Idea Store Bow, the first Idea Store we opened in 2002, the cafe is prominent there, really. The first thing, you come in from this way, and the cafe is the first thing you see. You see magazines and books and new offers or whatever, people sitting and chatting, and the help desk is where the green lights there. So it's there if you need it, but it's not the most important place. The same Idea Store Whitechapel, the first thing you see is the books and the screens, and the help desk is on the side. I Canary Wharf Idea Store, the help desk, where is it? It's not there. It's actually there somewhere at the back, but it's not the most important feature of that particular thing. Don't forget we also have floor walkers, staff who wear uniforms and floor walk, and make ourselves available to the public. Removing the barriers means also having a workforce that reflects your community. In our case, as I said, the community is 51% non-white, and it was important for us to try to aim for something similar in our workforce, so that at least people don't feel like they come and there's like an alien force there behind the counter. So they actually know that people like you, that people like you being your neighbors, and that is our aim. Psychological barriers are the ones about the things which are forbidden. The no rules applies to the entire building. We haven't got a single sign that tells people not to do something. So again, the principle is if you have a cafe, which we have in some Idea stores, you want to encourage people to enjoy, have a coffee or a drink or some food. And then if they're doing some work downstairs in a different area on a computer or reading a book or a magazine, you want to let them do that wherever they are. I mean, think about at home. What would you do at home? Would you take, reading a book at home in the living room, and then if you're thirsty, you go to the kitchen, you leave the book in the living room. You don't want to make it go to near a coffee, but absolutely not. And no, of course, you make yourself a coffee and you take it back to the living room and you carry on reading, okay? So if we trust people for 3 weeks at home without a book, why don't we trust them for half an hour in the Idea Store? What damage can they make? They're not going to start being, I don't care, this is a library book, who cares? I'm going to put a cappuccino, I'm going to put a latte there, and then a decaffeinated Americano, and see what happens. They're not going to do that, are you? So really, just trust people. I think people are not going to trust the place. And in fact, many people were cynical about it. And thought, they're going to trust your place. And it didn't happen, never happened. The same with mobile phones, it's allowed, they're allowed, as long as people are considerate of other people. Okay? So in this day and age, you can turn it down, make it silent, be discreet, you don't have to shout. This guy's talking about, I don't know, making plans for his holidays with his girlfriend, or maybe checking football results. I don't know what he's doing, but he's not disturbing those other two people. So why should we tell him no for mobile phones? Not a problem at all. Of course, if he starts playing music loudly and dancing in the hall, that might be not a good idea, and we might intervene and tell him politely, that's not a good idea. Moving on. We offer a wide range of activities. The courses I told you about are taught by qualified teachers, but we also do activities that members of staff, frontline staff, organize and conduct. This is the dance courses we do: Bollywood, jazz, urban, contemporary, ballet, Kathak, you name it. We have artists, performers come and perform. We have cookery classes of all types. We have IT courses for beginners, elderly people, and so on. We have lots of ESOL, English for Speakers of Other Languages courses. We have, this is a session called Dinkal, is reading newspapers in Bengali, because the older generation in Bengali, they're really passionate about politics. They like to read about back home what's going on in Parliament and so on. We do library stuff, of course, yeah, okay. And we have artists like graphic novelists and so on. We have a reading festival. It's going to really thrive in very, very well. It's called The Right Idea. Every year is entirely free. We pay the artist. We get funding to pay the artists because absolutely they're professionals. But the public do not pay entrance fee, because again, that removes the barriers. Sometimes some literary events in England, in London, they cost £10, £15, £20 to see Ian McEwan. And that really, people can't even afford the book. They can't afford £20 to hear Ian McEwan. So we make it free for others. Lots of things for children. We have a really program. I kind of had a chance to talk to colleagues yesterday about the idea store for children. Offer yesterday, I haven't got time today to go into details, but it's quite comprehensive. And the important thing is really regular and then reliable. So story time is done every day. 6 days of the week, except Sundays. We do Dance Club also on a Saturday. We do lots of things in the afternoon after children come out of school. We turn the computers off, no games between 3:30 and 5 o'clock, only reading for pleasure kind of activities. And that really is working really, really well, we think. Art gallery, art events, and so on. The way we recruit and manage staff, again, we looked and borrowed some ideas from the retail sector. There's a company called Pret a Manger, which is a sandwich bar. They do salads and stuff like that, run a bit like a cooperative in London, very innovative in their approach. And the way they recruit their staff is primarily on attitude. And then they skill them up to the right levels of skills. And I'm not saying, this is a librarian's audience. I'm not going to say that I'm going to equate making a cappuccino with being a librarian. No disrespect to baristas. They say it takes about 2 weeks to train people up to make salads and sandwiches and cappuccinos and stuff like that. But the important thing is to go for the attitude first, because the attitude, you cannot teach attitude. You cannot train attitude. Either you're predisposed to working with the people, of all types, older people, young people, young parents, children, people who don't speak English as first language, professionals, and so on. Either you are comfortable in that environment or not. And if you're not, you should be doing some work in back office somewhere, but not on the front line. So our process is over 4 stages. The first stage is application. The second is an online test for literacy. The third is an interview, but it's not the final stage. The final stage is the 4th stage, which involves the members of the team already. So the managers interview the candidates, and if they're good enough after the interview, they send them to the staff. And the staff decide, okay, do we want this person or do we want this person, if there's only one post. And they spend 3 hours there. They get to shadow them and take the plunge and do story time. As part of the assessment, they have to go on all fours and tell a story to a group of 15 kids and parents, and see how you get on with that, because working with children is not an optional thing. It has to be part of everyday work. So, and that really really helps a lot. Staff development, again, is comprehensive. Once we recruit people who are with the right attitude, who are willing to work with different groups of people, then it's easy to relatively easy to train them to the right skills. So we do the technical stuff, the library catalog, all this kind of course. It takes about between 6 months and a year. But we also do something else. Again, we borrowed from retail, which is on emotional awareness. Because although they come with a good attitude to begin with, at the same time, it's important to understand oneself in order to understand, first of all, your team members. And if somebody may be looking a bit in a bad mood on a particular day, we need to find out ways of kind of helping in some ways. And that really helps you if you understand yourself. You're more likely to understand other people, including the public. Okay, if they come along and they really seem to be angry about something that happened to them outside there, and the council is a terrible thing, and I'm really coming in, and really I want to argue with you, and you just, it's about knowing, having those skills to say, hi, let's cool down a bit and let's see what we can do to help, okay? So this is really very much based on what some of the people in retail do. So we learned from that and I implemented that. Our workforce the structure is quite flat. On the front line, you've got a coordinator, we call them, and the lower level, and then team leader and a manager. In the old days, we used to have 5 levels of hierarchy. So it used to be like a junior librarian, a librarian, senior librarian, deputy chief librarian, and et cetera, et cetera. And each of them were in a little silo, and they were all just little compartments, thinking their job went from this to that, okay? And they were not paid to do that, and they can only do as much as this. Okay, so the junior librarian will say, look, I'm not going to do that because that is actually the librarian's job. And the librarian will say the same. Okay, I'm not going to do her job because she's a junior librarian, she should be doing that. I'm not going to do her job because she's paid more than me, so why should I do her job? So this was kind of mentality then. And now we just remove that, and then I'm not saying, I think when I say empowerment, it also means really listening to coordinators who come with good ideas, regardless of their experience. Sometimes we get somebody like 18 years old, join us for the first time, work alongside someone who's been there for 20 years, and they come up with a brilliant idea, something we haven't thought about before. In the old days, they would have thought, oh, but you're only a junior librarian. What does she know about this? And now they're thinking, oh, wow, we hadn't thought of that. Thank you very much for that insight. Of course, from a young person's point of view, they might see things actually you wouldn't see, notice yourself. And so we like that. We run the service on a strict rota, a 1-hour rotation. I saw the other day in one of the libraries we went for the tour. There's some colleagues that have like a 2-hour rotation. We like in 1 hour, actually. It keeps it nice, snappy, and fresh all day long, because 1 hour they do help desk, 1 hour they might be in the children's library, 1 hour they might be in the surfing space, helping people on computers, 1 hour they're on the maybe having lunch, 1 hour in the back office doing some preparation of a project, 1 hour help desk, surfing space, floor walking, and so on all day long. So the time goes really fast. And also, everybody is able to do everything. There's no excuse, oh, I haven't been in children's library for ages. I really don't feel very confident. No, that doesn't happen. Everybody in children's library every day. Okay, and then in information retrieval, okay, everybody does it all the time. So we cannot rely on specialists to be there, because in the old days, what was happening? Well, there would be a reference library. Most days it would be open. Occasionally, of the 2 reference librarians, one might be on holiday. The other one happened to be sick. And there will be a big sign going up saying, reference library is closed. And somebody came along and says, excuse me, I just want to know where is the nearest doctor's surgery. Reference library is closed, sir. Sorry, come back tomorrow. That was the kind of attitude the people would get. Children's library the same. Children's specialist. Wow, it was like a god. And oh my God. And just with the piper takes all the kids behind. And just like when he or she was not there, the whole place was kind of like dead. So there was no story time, nobody sorry, no, I can't do that because I don't work with children, as if they were like a different species. So everybody does everything. I've done it myself, why not? Praise from users, people like us, people particularly like our staff, which is great. Politicians like us, which is great. This is Ed Vasey, Minister for Libraries, said nice things about us. Interestingly, Ed Vasey is from the Conservative Party, which is the party currently in government, and he's always been actually an Idea Store fan, even from the days when Idea Store was started during the Labour center-left government, and yet Vasey was in opposition then, but he didn't see it as a party political kind of game. He thought actually he recognized this is a good idea. And I might disagree with you guys in some ways in terms of political direction, but actually you're doing a fantastic job, so well done. And he continues to say so now. Impact has been fantastic. Visits are quadrupled over the years. The book launches have gone up. Satisfaction levels are one of the highest. I think we're 3rd highest in the UK. We used to be the bottom of the 32 councils in London. We used to be the bottom. And now we're 3rd in the country, so we're extremely pleased with that. This is the buildings we have. We have 5 Idea Stores to left, and Idea Store Bow. Most Idea Stores around 1,000, 1,100 square meters, okay? the four around. The one in the middle, Ideas Store Whitechapel, is 3,500 square meters. So the middle one is bigger, but the other ones are not particularly, they're not huge. And we like the idea of a network, and the Ideas Store Whitechapel is not necessarily more important than the other four at all. It's just one of them. It just got bigger space for things like dance studio and other learning labs and so on. We still have some other libraries, some more traditional libraries still there, and we're hoping to replace with Idea Stores over the years. We still also have an adult learning center, shadow center, where we do things like messy things like cookery, car mechanics, pottery, ceramics, that kind of stuff, and local history and archive, of course. In 2009, we had to review and refresh the strategy to check we were on the right route. And I mean, the numbers were telling us, yes, we're doing fantastically well, but we want to double check. And we have the new director who came along and said, look, shall we just feel the pulse again and see what's going on? And we were very pleased to hear that from people overwhelmingly. They were very, very happy what we were doing, how we were doing it. However, there was a couple of areas they pointed in the good direction, again, asking the people, what do you want? What matters most to you? And in Tower Hamlets in 2009, and sadly still now, health and employability are the two key major areas for our concern. So people want some help and support in these two particular areas. So we then devised an employability portfolio, and this really works in terms of working in partnership with some other organizations within the council, also outside the council, help people with job clubs, job searches, support, training, resume preparation, interview skills, all that kind of stuff. We also have a health portfolio, and this is really important to us, really particularly proud of this. We created a health strategy because we recognized actually the importance of health. The libraries play in health, in helping people in health. In Tamales, we have really high incidences of, for example, lots of a number of indexes. We are really just very poor health. Lots of people die far too young for heart disease, for example. So we try to do something about that. Also, mental health. 1 in 6 people in the UK will suffer from mental health at some point in their lives. In Tamales, it's 1 in 4. So really mental health, and again, reading is really important. We have also courses like yoga, which really help, relaxing, meditation, things like that. We think we have a role to play in this. And I remember once I was at a conference with Dutch librarians, and they were asking me, oh, Sergio, it's all very well, but do librarians really, do we need to do health as well? And I say, yes, why not? I think we are here. We provide courses, we provide fantastic resources regarding health, and why should we not really be actively promoting this? And why in the early years of Idea Stores, the health practitioners will not really look into us? Over the years, we managed to work on them, and eventually we produced this Idea Store health strategy, which is on our website if you have a chance to have a look at it, and it's really started listening and started inviting us to high-level meetings to decide what are we going to do about health. And they even provided some health outreach workers who are based within Idea Store team, and they go out and about promoting our services and involving people. So we're very proud of that. The next step is Idea Store incorporating some other elements of the council. We call it local presence as a kind of working title. Essentially, it's about the customer services, really, and I hear Deb, for example, is working, and you work in that department. You tell us about it later, presumably. And it's really how to put this together. I mean, there's a challenge there because Idea Store libraries normally are elective and one-stop shops, so where people go to the council to sort out the parking or benefits or housing. You don't do that by choice. You do that because you have to. So there's a bit of a clash there. In kind of the ethos and so on. So there's a challenge there. However, we are ready. And that's it. Thank you very much. I'm open for questions if you have. Thank you.
Thank you, Sergio. I'm sure you're all dying to ask questions. Can I see a show of hands, please? Yes, we had Deb up there. Thanks, Deb.
Sergio, thanks so much for that. One of the things I'd like to ask you about is in the early days, how did you interact with the council to get the support for your out-of-the-square type thinking?
Right. Pat and I were talking about the word winging yesterday. We kind of bluffed, really. To be perfectly honest, I mean, this is not being broadcasting back home, is it? No? Okay. So we got away with it, I think. It was cleverly done, I think, and I think what happened, we as the head of culture at the time and the head of library at the time realized this situation was untenable, not sustainable, and so on. So they had to do something about it. As I said, they commissioned this marketing research and so on. So they gathered all the data, the evidence first, before making a move. And once they got all that, then they were able to go to the politicians with the evidence. So they didn't go to the politicians and say, hi, give us more money for new libraries. No. They gathered all the evidence to find out what people want. Because the answer might have been people who were not interested in libraries. Therefore, there was no mandate for that. Okay. But what they did, cleverly, they didn't go to the local politicians. They went straight to the national politicians, because there was a history that there was the new Labour Party, the Labour Party government, Tony Blair's party, Labour Party government, they always looked favourably to a place like Hamlets, which was yet very deprived and yet very energetic, full of ideas and so on. And so it was a good kind of place to try things out. So when we then went to, and we had the direct link with the Minister for Culture at the time, Chris Smith, great guy. I would say that, wouldn't I? But he was really genuinely a very nice person, very open-minded person. When we went to knock his door and say, look, what do you think about this? And it really showed he was interested. So we then created this amazing, I don't know if you know, at Canary Wharf, there's a major tower in Canary Wharf, the tallest tower there, and it's a very spanky, like a really finance district kind of area. And we hired the 50th floor of that, and we had like a champagne reception there, where he invited the Minister for Culture there, as well as the local politicians who didn't know much about this, okay? And then we just kind of unveiled the idea store and served champagne to everyone. And suddenly, and the Minister for Culture said, wow, I really like this. This has got to happen. So the local politicians were just thinking, okay. And they were in the same party as well, so it helped as well. But if the minister says, and I'm willing to put money into this. So he gave some £20 million to build the buildings, and a commitment to also some revenue budget as well to run them. And that was really it. So we kind of, we went to be, blind on that and thinking, oh, he might totally fail. But we managed to convince him in the first. So I don't suppose there's the right protocol, I suppose, but we don't like doing things by the book, yeah. We got away with it. And if it had to happen now, that would be a very different scenario, I think, yeah. But those days were, happy days. Thank you.
Fantastic what you guys have done in terms of changing the way libraries are perceived by communities. Given your phenomenal results, are other councils looking to roll this out across in the UK?
No. And that is really sad, really sad. I've got so many air miles, I could travel forever. Because I get invited to places like wonderful places like Perth to talk about this, because you guys look at the audience. You all want to hear about this, and I go to many other places in the world, obviously in Europe, just on the corner. I'm out about all the time, and yet, I get how many visits do I get from the UK colleagues? I maybe get one a year, or maybe twice a year. I get about, at some point I used to get 2 a month from Scandinavia, from Denmark alone, plus the other Scandinavian countries. Every month there will be somebody, hi, can we come and see you? And so the UK, they never knock at the door. So there's the kind of perception that we are not a real library. There's a lot of negativity about what we do. skepticism and so on. In the meantime, I see those libraries sinking and sinking and sinking and sinking and disappearing, and we are not. We kind of, we provided we are kind of future-proof, I think, touch wood, because we created something that really people cannot do without. And yet, other librarian colleagues in the UK, they haven't managed to make the case so compelling. And therefore, those libraries will become vulnerable. If your libraries are just like the ones I showed at the very beginning, and you can't defend those libraries, I'm sorry, those have to go. And but they don't want to let go. Neither the politicians, to be honest, local politicians, nor the librarians want to let go of those little stupid libraries. And sorry, I thought I was thinking. Sometimes things come out without, there's no filter. Sorry. Anyway, so because of that, they want to keep this kind of kingdom of libraries under their wing, and they're failing. So I'd rather have fewer, but good ones. That is really the answer. So the answer is, again, it's my no. Thank you.
Hi, Sergio. Yep, sorry, I can't hear myself. So I was just wanting to ask, because it sounds like you've got wonderfully multi-skilled workers who can just pop in and fit in where needed to do whatever role is needed. How do you keep developing their skills once they can pretty much do everything, if that makes sense?
Oh, there's always challenges, yeah, thank you. There's always challenges. The role is quite complex, actually. We call it coordinators. By the way, the pay is good, and we attract good people. So we don't, there are several levels of pay in the UK. Some library staff get paid like a level 2, scale 2, they call them the basic library assistant. We pay scale 6, which is actually a decent pay and salary. So we decided to have fewer of those rather than many. At some point we did a reorganization about 7 years ago. We used to have supervisors and assistants, and we merged them into coordinators, but we upgrade them by fewer of them. Instead of having 100 people, of which 70 were assistants and 30 supervisors, we ended up with 80 all coordinators at the highest level of pay. So that was really, I thought it was a good move. And what they do is a number of things. The JD, the job descriptions are generic, but the role is quite complex. And there's room for development. Each of them, we have champions. So in each team, to give you an idea, staffing levels, the smaller IDSTOs, they have a team of about 12 FTE, so 16, 18 individuals. The larger one, IDSTO Whitechapel, has got 24 FTE, so that's about 32 individuals with the part-timers. So each IDSTO has got some coordinators who are first among equals, where they are champions, okay? And we have champions in stock, children, learning, and digital information, okay? So, and that means they got that role, I think, for 2 years. And over that 2 years, they lead on that, and they got a small team of their own. The pay is the same, the pay is not an issue, they all pay the same, but they lead a small team of stock. So the 3 people are in charge of stock. And they work with the stock development manager who works back office to make sure that their stock is really fresh and appetizing and so on. And the same with children, the same with digital, the same and so on. After 2 years, they changed the roles. So who was the children kind of stock champion? The children champion becomes stock champion, maybe, or someone in the digital team wants to become, learning champion, and so on. So again, they gain more experience in doing that particular thing by focusing on that, while doing everything else, of course. They don't just do that, they do everything else as well. But they take a particular kind of leadership in that. So that's really just, so they enrich their experience greatly. So when I say enriching, the values are applied to staff as well. It means that really people typically work even just a couple, 2, 3 years with us. They leave the service having gained a considerable amount of experience and knowledge that really is very, very marketable in the job market. Okay, whereas I've seen some of the colleagues who work in more traditional libraries, they tend to do, a more limited range of things, and that is not really marketable. Whereas these people can either get other jobs in other libraries, or similar environment, or also in different worlds, in different fields. But having gained something really remarkable about this, and they're all, and again, because we empower them, we give them a lot of freedom to come up with ideas, and we support it. If it's a good idea, we support it, regardless who comes up with the idea. That doesn't matter. If it's a good idea, we'll give you a chance to do it. That's the way it works. Thank you.
Good morning. Is that working? Yes.
Ali, hi.
Hi. I was just wondering about the change of name to Idea Store. In Queensland, we've had quite a number of libraries change their name over the years to Knowledge Centre or Global Information Centre, and it really hasn't worked for them, and they've ended up turning back to the word library. And I wonder if that's because Queensland Public Libraries are a really trusted, known, positive brand, and libraries know, customers know library as where to go. When one of the libraries changed it to Global Information Centre, nobody knew where the library was, and they'd wander into the building and go, where's the library? So I wonder if that might be the difference, or did you have that problem at all?
Well, obviously, yeah, we considered, obviously, what's in a name. We considered how to call ourselves, since we rebranded ourselves entirely, and there were questions over that, and we reflected on the word library, which is a beautiful word, and yet has certain connotations in our area, at least, which are not entirely positive. And whether we like it or not, it's not. Obviously, I have no problem, but I think about other people as well. Because, for example, as I said, there's a high percentage of people are from ethnic minority groups, which is the majority, and they come from developing countries where the concept of a public library is either not there or is almost non-existent. And so, whereas I was brought up in the Western world, and even as a kid, I had a library not very far from home, and I was going to use it and feel really comfortable throughout my life using a library. If you think about Bangladesh, colleagues from Bangladesh, where libraries are considered to be for academics, so and people, ordinary people who haven't gone to university, will walk past and thinking, oh, that's not for me. Also, the building's normally very kind of austere and forbidding, etc. And that really just doesn't work for them. So we had to convince them that it really, there's something here for you. That's one thing. The other thing, because we offer a number of things, including, I would say 50-50 is learning in a library, to be honest. The courses are a big part of it. We don't just work in partnership with a college who comes and delivers 10 courses a year. We do 900 courses, and all under our wing, i.e. my other colleague, Simon, other deputy head, he looks after learning, and he delivers. He has managers to deliver all those wonderful programs. So again, the moment you put that together with all the other things as well, then the word library becomes quite limited in what it tries to convey. Whether we like it or not, libraries tends to mean books. In most people they think book, think library, association, book. So we had to go beyond that, and so we decided to call it something different because of that. And the designers we used came up with the word idea. And we just fell in love with it because it's very short. It's very it's got this open kind of question mark there, which makes one curious. It's quite international in many different languages. There's a small variation, particularly Western languages, from idea to idea, so on. And it's it's open-ended. We like that. So that's why we went for that. I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. I wouldn't. To me, the length of the word is very important, I think. Because again, in my local area where I live, they call the library technology center, something like that, something really a mouthful. And I thought I lost some people along the way, I think. So I think, short is best, I think. And in our case, it works, but I wouldn't say it works for everyone, I would say.
If other libraries in the UK wanted to use that, or in Australia, is that available for sale?
It's more likely to happen in Australia at this rate than UK. It is, but I don't know if it's good bad news. It's a registered trademark, so you have to go through myself. But it will be a reasonable rates. We may negotiate something, especially for you guys. Yeah, who's first? But it would have to be under certain conditions. And so on. So far, hasn't happened yet. Some people tried in different countries. They do something similar, which I'm very pleased to see. There's a place Like at some point in Denmark, they opened the. Oh, actually, we missed the trick there. We didn't register in different languages. They only registered in English. So the clever Danish people, they opened Idé Boutique, which means idea store in Danish. And anyway, but it's an honor to be copied in some ways. In the US, there's something called Anything in Colorado, which is very much along, we very much get on very well with them, and they said we inspired them, and we're very flattered by that. In Holland, there's something similar. In Italy, there's something similar. There are different variations. People come along and they take home whatever they like about us, and they do their own for their own environment, and which is absolutely fine. Yeah. But if you want to the Idea Store brand.
Well, thanks so much, Sergio. Please join me in thanking Sergio. We have a small. And on behalf of PLW, WA, here's a little gift for you, a token of our appreciation, Sergio.
Thank you very much.
It's our pleasure. And now it's time for morning tea, but time for you to go and network with your colleagues and enjoy a bit of chat. Don't forget to have a chat to the trade as well. And if you could all be back in the theatre at 5 to 11, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody.